Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Do I have it at a good level? So I'm using Ben's laptop. Thank you so much. My laptop decided this very moment to crash. Thank you, Google Docs. So if I seem a little uncomfortable with the keyboard, it's because I'm used to a PC keyboard. But I'll fake it. So it's not really part of my talk, but I wanted to introduce this thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is data viz versus data art. I'm a practitioner of both. And why do we need to distinguish between these two things? Because they really they serve two different purposes. Data viz is something we make for ourselves or somebody else, with which somebody has to accomplish a task. It is goal-oriented. They have to make a decision, they need to understand something, they need to learn something. Data art is art. It is purely an artistic expression. It doesn't have to make sense. It can reach you emotionally. It doesn't have to, but it's all about expression. Data art can be data viz can be data art, but you have to be aware of what your intention is and what you need to accomplish when you start out. Also, a big hint of how to do data art, those cool little bugs that people call D3 broken made art, that's not art. That's the first step of the creative process to create art. You put that aside, you get back to work, you get your viz done, and then when you have time, you come back and you make that bug into something that is actually art. So what I'm focusing on for this talk is color stories. I think of color stories as external, projected, and internal. This is a new way I'm thinking about color. External colors are what we usually do with data viz. We are applying a color palette to a set of data, and we're trying to help people use things like the pre-attentive qualities of color, hue and intensity, or you need to be colorblind aware as well, but we're using color to help people find patterns that are not color related. Projected color stories are when you have data that naturally maps to a color space, like say an IP address. The IP address of the University of San Francisco maps to this beautiful teal green. I did a project several years ago where I was really frustrated with spammers who were taking advantage of my servers. And I noticed this correlation between IP addresses and color space. So I created this weird jellyfish radial thing, and each color represents the IP address of a spammer who really, really annoyed me. Internal color stories, that's what the rest of this talk is going to be about. We're looking at color changes over time, places, and instances. The color is the data. I found this a while ago, and I just have been fascinated with it. Arthur Buxton, and he has some collaborators that he's worked with, created this visualization as art, but it's still a visualization, representing the colors of various Impressionist artists over the course of their careers. I think it's beautiful, it's kind of readable, it's art, it is a viz. So some of you may have heard of my Inky Days drawing. Has anybody seen my Inky Days drawings? Oh, thank you. So Inky Days is not data viz. I guess it's art. It's this new exploration I've been on for a little over than a year now. I take a really simple idea and I try to draw it in ink and I play with color. And as I've been traveling over the past year, I visit shops and I find new inks to play with. And it had been a year, and I thought, well, is there some kind of way that I can celebrate this year of drawing? I'm not an artist. Well, I didn't think of myself as an artist. I think I have become an artist, and Inky Days has helped me on that journey. I do data viz, so why don't I do a data viz of my drawings? So I decided to visualize a year of my color stories. These are internal color stories. My data collection was manual. I looked at my drawings, I wrote down what colors I used. I looked up the bottles, and I looked at the price tags, because if it was a French ink, but I'd bought it in San Francisco, where I live, it had a dollar sign on the price tag. So that's how I could tell where I had purchased it. If it was an Italian ink, and it had a euro sign on it, I'm like, oh, I was in Paris when I bought that ink. So I knew that that ink I got it in Paris, even though it originated in Italy. At the same time, I've always wanted to experiment with storytelling, but I've never had an excuse to do it. So I've got my color data, I want to do storytelling, I've got all these pictures, so I created a year of visualizing color stories. As the story scrolls, the story I have written, so this is a combination of not just data viz and my drawings, but actually trying to verbalize and put into words what my journey was while I was doing the drawings. As you scroll through it, I don't know if you can see this watermark sort of slowly develops as you scroll through the pages. And then at the end, you get the interactive viz, and you can mouse over each of the dots, and that will show you the color it is, where it was made, and where I got it. So it's a toy. It's fun. It was a personal exploration. And now I understand how to use the storytelling library. Okay, those are things I've already done. Now we're moving into an area that I am still actively developing. It's been a long time project, but it's still kind of rough. How many here know who Randy Rainbow is? One, two, a few? Okay. I saw Randy Rainbow live after seeing a few of his videos, and I was just so impressed. I'm like, wow, where did this guy come from? How did he get his style? He's different from anything I have ever seen before. And so I was curious, and I just decided to go research him. It wasn't obsession, it was fascination. So I created, because he's so whimsical, I decided my visualization needed to be whimsical. Who is he? He's a singing political satirist. I kept trying to think of how to describe who he is, but he has that on his website, and that's perfect. He's a YouTube star, and he tours with a live stage show. And he looks like that. And in his work, he's created this whole color story of his own with these beautiful colors. And that's what I brought into the visualization that I created. I wanted to echo his voice and my admiration for his artistry. Why Randy Rainbow? I was curious. Where did he come from? I know I said that. How long has he been around? How many videos has he made? How popular are they? How did his style develop? The first ones were really easy to answer. All that data is on YouTube. I just went digging around, finding videos, and looking what the view counts were and the published date, and that was pretty easy. But the style development, that was a little more tricky. So originally, and this is currently online, it's very simple data, just the date, views, title. I got a little tricky in that I used natural language processing to analyze the transcripts that he had available to show these cute little cloud bursts. So when you mouse, I'll show after my slides, when you mouse over the bubbles, this little burst of words come out. If it's a song parody, musical notes come out. If it's not, they don't. If there was no transcript available, I have the oops, no transcript. That was not really related to color, but that was an interesting challenge, because what do you do when the data set is incomplete? Be playful, be creative, find a way to indicate that you don't have it, but it might be available someday, or it may never be available, but you have to indicate that the data is missing. Even though this is whimsical and this is fun, I still fall back on my tried and true tricks for doing data viz. So the analysis was all done in Python, and for the viz, it's D3, and vanilla JavaScript. So the next step is style. How do I find his style? I thought I'd start with color. He has 10 years of videos that I was able to find, and they're on average about 2.5 minutes, but his early videos are probably, some of them are as long as 6 minutes. Total of 450 minutes of videos and counting. Every time he releases a new video, I update my data set and I update the viz. I use Python for downloading, frame extraction, and image analysis. I am still playing with various color clustering ideas. The usual like k-means clustering does not yield aesthetically pleasing color choices. It doesn't yield what my eyes see. It shows an approximation of the color rather than what the most dominant color is. So my initial studies were k-means clustering and other sorting systems, but I am in the process now of experimenting with edge detection and creating a cartooning effect on the video so that when I do my color clustering, they're actually closer to the true colors of the video. This was my first result. Now, I know it doesn't look like much, but when I first saw, this is my first visual result after months of figuring out how I'm going to cluster, how I'm going to extract, how I'm going to do all this stuff. And the processing time can take days just to get the, as I was trying different techniques to see what would work. My first run took about a month to complete, and I'm now down to about a day and a half for the full video library. This is too messy. It means everything to me. I was so excited because like, yes, it's all muted colors. When he started out his career, he was filming against the cabinets of his kitchen and it was just his face. And he's talking on the phone to his mom and he's being really funny, but visually boring. Time is going from the bottom up. So the longer videos are on the bottom and they're brown and boring. And as you go up, they get brighter and more colorful and choppier. This is what I'm doing now. Because while I can see the patterns in the first visualization, this communicates the color story more immediately to somebody who's not as familiar with the data as I am. When he starts out in 2009, the colors are pretty boring, kind of consistent. And then as you move forward in time, that gets way more colorful, and he's at the same time doing a lot more video editing, so his scenes are chopping back and forth. This is one of his earliest videos, and this is every color of every scene. So the lines going up and down are a frame. And then this is one of his more recent videos, and it's really fun. All about his base. It's just what you think it is. This is as close to a certain person that I can deal with right now. And this kind of parody, this is kind of personal, but doing this kind of work can be fairly therapeutic when you're dealing with things that are upsetting and are happening in the world around you. It might seem like escapism, but it really is helping me get through the day. And this is my favorite end result currently, and I cannot tell you the name of this video because it is censored, but it is something a certain elected official has said. So the last part, showing you the viz that got me excited and showed me that I was making progress and that after all this work, I finally saw something that works for me as the researcher. But that doesn't work for somebody that has never seen the work before or doesn't understand the concept. You want to communicate something quickly. If you want them to explore a data set, if you want them to explore an idea, you need to grab them first. You need to give them something that they can latch onto mentally and go deeper. The danger when you're close is that you can't see that. You can't put your mind in the space of the novice when you've become the expert, unless you've really trained yourself to do that. Revealing patterns for others, which most people do, is a much more difficult task. And I'm actually very proud to be part of this community. I am thankful for this community that it exists, because you all put in a lot of effort and a lot of research and a lot of skill and talent in taking something beyond what, say, the researcher sees and makes it possible to communicate with others who may not be as expert in it. And, okay, I'm going to soapbox a little bit. I think that the scientific community is especially guilty of not empathizing with the novice. They are fine with their whisker box plots because they've gone through the hazing ritual of learning how to read a difficult-to-read visualization. I think that we can help the scientific community and all experts to bring that novice view and help them communicate important concepts like the need for vaccinations, climate change. We have the ability to take these very important concepts that are life-threatening and help the experts communicate with the policymakers to save us. And that's it.